Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, a round of applause for John Bailey! Thank you very much for meeting with us. As you can see, we're not a huge fandom, but we do love our Transformers.
I do too.
Exactly. But this is one of the reasons why we wanted to talk to you so much. Not many people know that you are associated with Transformers a lot.
Well, if they followed me on social media at all, they would know that I've been a fan of Transformers for a very, very long time. Transformers came out when I was 4 or 5 years old, and I was instantly hooked. So yeah, I was telling him earlier, my mom took me to the store, and G.I. Joe was on one section, Transformers right next to it. She's like, you can pick one. Whichever one you pick, that's the one you're sticking with. You can't have both, one or the other. So I looked at G.I. Joe, looked how small they were, looked at all the little parts that you could lose. And I looked at Transformers, I'm like, it's a puzzle, a vehicle, and a robot. You're getting 3 toys in one, so I picked Transformers. And then I found out that they had a cartoon, and I just kind of went from there.
Was it the first time you were seeing Transformers in the store? Or?
Yeah, I saw Transformers first in the store. I heard the original voice of Optimus Prime's name is Peter Cullen, and I did not hear him first in Transformers though. I heard him first in Voltron, because he does a lot of not great voices in Voltron. I mean, they were really bad character voices, but he also did the intro.
Yeah.
So when Voltron's like going through it's the first thing you hear is Peter Cullen's voice. And I wasn't paying a lot of attention. I was kind of playing with the toys on the floor. And then I heard Voltron, Defender of the Universe. I was like, what was that? I want to hear more of that. And then when I heard him again as Optimus Prime in Transformers, after I'd already got some of the toys, I was just instantly hooked. And it was such a great story. It's just so simple. It's good guys versus bad guys. Good guys win. But the characters had some personality. It was kind of different than anything that had been done before. And the fact that you didn't have one major bad guy. You had not all the bad guys were all bad, and they're not all the good guys were all good. There was some good guys that didn't really want to fight. Some of them were like, I don't want to fight. And then you had Starscream trying to take over. And after Transformers came out, a lot of cartoons started copying that, where there's a bad guy and then a guy tried to take over from that bad guy. So they all had their own versions of Megatron and Starscream. So it was kind of the hipster of of cartoons, because they'd done things that nobody had done before. And even though they were simple stories that were basically commercials for toys, it was just something about the brand. It was just these heroic guys that are here to help, protect us against these guys who want to destroy everything, and they managed to. And it doesn't make any sense. Because if you look at Autobots versus Decepticons were all military vehicles. They're tanks and jets versus a bunch of old crappy cars from the 80s. Like, in a real fight, Autobots don't have a chance. But for some reason, everybody loves an underdog. So you just kind of fall in love with the thing. So yeah, I was a fan right after that.
Great. And I know that you were influenced by Transformers to become the voice actor.
Yeah, the first time I heard Peter Cullen's voice in Voltron, and then again in Transformers, I just like, I didn't really understand it. I mean, I was a really little kid, I was really young, and I didn't really understand what voice acting was. And back then, they didn't put, the actor's name next to the character's name. They just put all the actors together. So we had no idea who did what voice. We just knew that those were the people that were in the show. They didn't say which characters that they did. Most of them did. I mean, Frank Welker did 30 or 50 Transformers characters. And a lot of people know him just as Megatron, but he was Ravage. He was like, there was tons of, he was Soundwave. A lot of people don't know that he did so many different characters in the show. So we didn't know, it just says Frank Welker, but we didn't know which one Frank Welker was. We had no idea. And until Google came along, to where they started putting together information about shows and about cartoons and who did what voices, we had no idea. Everybody was trying to figure it out, because it had been 20 years since the show came out. We had no idea who did what. So I didn't know who Optimus Prime even was back then. I just knew that voice was like, I wanted to be that voice one day. That didn't make sense now, but to a 4-year-old, you're like, I just want to be that voice when I grow up,
It's so iconic, you cannot.
Yeah, it's something that made you just sit up and pay attention, because his voice is just so unique. It's what's really funny is that Peter Cullen actually based that voice on his own brother.
Yeah,
his brother was in the military, and he asked him about the character that he'd gotten, and he's like, this guy's a hero, right? Just make him be a hero. So he put a little bit of cowboy, like John Wayne and his own brother, kind of combined them together. And over the years, the character has changed a lot. Because back then, he used to use contractions. He used to say can't, won't. And then as he's gotten to the point now he says cannot and will not. He's got a lot more bravado, and he's carries himself a little bit. So they don't use contractions anymore. And every time I get booked to do Optimus Prime's voice, and they'll have a contraction, I'm like, I can't say it that way because Peter Cullen will hate me. And I've actually heard booth directors who worked with him and with me, that he refuses. If they write it in there, we can't go there. He's like, no, Optimus Prime would not say that. I can't say it. It has to be cannot, would not. There's no contractions. I'm like, I mean, he created the character voice. He can say whatever he wants, and they're going to have to do it. So, my favorite Transformers character?
Yes.
Shockwave has always been my favorite. Shockwave, I was telling somebody this earlier. Shockwave was from Generation 1. And they had a very limited run, but Marvel Comics originally did Transformers. And in issue 5, they introduced Shockwave. And he was the only character that has ever defeated all the Autobots in one blast, including Optimus Prime, removed Optimus Prime's head and kept it alive because it had the creation matrix inside of it. And he defeated Megatron too. And he's handicapped. He has one arm and one eye. And he happens to be like the greatest color ever, which is purple, which is my favorite color. And Transformers is the reason why it's my favorite color. Shockwave, I just fell in love with it right away. Optimus has always been one of my favorite characters, but Shockwave's always been my favorite character.
We know that you fell in love with Transformers, with toys when you first seen them. How many do you currently own?
While I was walking around the booth, I was trying to count in my head how many I have. Do you know those the plastic containers that go underneath your bed?
Yeah.
The lid that closes up now. So I have 3 of those completely packed with Transformers, and then I have 2 large plastic tubs that are about this big. So I would say roughly at least 1,000, maybe more.
Have you heard that the current world record was 1,000, if I remember correctly?
I would think the current record is way more than that. Because I have 1,000 by myself.
There is a person who's trying to beat it now, and he believes he has somewhere around 2,000. So
yeah, there's got to be somebody that's got more than me, because I have all of certain lines. Like I've got all the masterpieces. I've got all of Transformers Prime. I've got all Transformers Animated. I've got all of the classics generations. Everything from Combiner Wars up to Power. Well, Power Crunch is not in retail yet, but I've got everything up from Combiner Wars to Titan 3. So that's just what I have. So there's way more than that, because I have very few of the original toys anymore. I had to sell a lot of mine just to get through college, but I didn't sell them cheap. I got good prices from the store, the comic collectible store. But I have very few of the original Generation 1 stuff. I don't have anything from Generation 2 anymore. And I was in college when Energon and all the Troll trilogy was outside. I didn't get any of those at all. So I'm thinking probably the record's probably closer to 10,000 or more. Maybe they're just missing a 0 in there somewhere, but there's no way I got close to the record.
Well, no,
because I have friends that have a museum of Transformers.
No, that's why I was surprised at it.
Yeah, that can't be right. There's no way that's right.
We know a few people
easily, yeah. My friend Ryan's easily got 10 or 20,000.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got thousands of them.
Wow. Okay, so now it will be quite a difficult question probably to say which of all the Transformers you have is your most favorite one.
The toys?
Yeah.
I have the original Generation 1 Scorponok, complete with the box and the styrofoam. The box is not in great shape, but yeah, that was one I always wanted. I got the reissue of Fortress Maximus, but because I always wanted, that was like, if you're a G.I. Joe fan, that was like the big ship that nobody could get and nobody could afford. The Transformers version was Fortress Maximus. And then when I actually got it, I didn't like it very much. You can't pose him. He's way too big to fit with anything else. And Scorponok's this big compared to Fortress Maximus. So something about Scorponok was just really, I love the color scheme. I love a lot of people don't like the Headmaster gimmick. I thought the Headmaster and the Power Master stuff wasn't real. I didn't like the Target Masters, but Headmasters and Power Masters were really, really cool. In fact, I was so disappointed. I wasn't disappointed that I got replaced by Peter Cullen and Titans Retired, because he's my favorite Well, I mean, I would rather have him than me as Optimus Prime anyway. But I was disappointed that I didn't get a chance to even audition for any other new characters. Because they introduced 4 headmasters, they introduced Power Masters, but they're all headmasters now. But there was a lot of new characters that didn't have voices yet, and I didn't even get a chance to audition for it. I would much rather have done something new rather than still in somebody else, you know. But yeah, when they brought back headmasters, I was so happy that then we get them, and they're only this big. I was hoping for something a little bit bigger. But the new Fortress Maximus I've got all the new Titans. I was so happy that they brought back,
Cerebrus?
No.
Cerebrus?
Yeah, like Triptychon. I'm so happy they brought Triptychon back. Because they finally, it only took them 20 years, 30 years, but they finally have them all the right size. Like Triptychon and Fortress Maximus and Metroplex, they could all fight each other. Because in the old days, you put Fortress Maximus is supposed to be a city, right? But Metroplex is supposed to be even bigger than him, and Metroplex was only this big, and Fortress Maximus wasn't. And I've never been like, when I was a kid, I didn't really care about scale, but now I kind of do, because they don't look right, and they're not the right height for each other. Like, I can't stand when the Bumblebee's this big and Optimus Prime is this big. It just doesn't make any sense. Bumblebee shouldn't be able to pick up Optimus Prime. He's already a glory hog anyway.
Yeah, because of
he fills up every shelf. It's all Bumblebee.
You don't put him with Optimus.
All of Bumblebee wants all of the attention. I am far more cooler than Bumblebee.
Give your applause, come on.
They don't.
Okay. Talking about not scary. Which of the Transformers toy you have is the one you don't care for? You hate basically, but you have it for some reason.
There's quite a few. So I'll try to explain this in a short way. My parents didn't have. Well, my grandparents passed away a long time ago. Don't. It's been a long time ago. Don't feel bad for me. They lived long, fulfilled lives, but they didn't have anything left over to hand down to the grandchildren. They had money, but I mean, money is money. It's not something you can hand down to your kids and they'll just spend it on things. But I wanted something tangible that I could remember them by. And when that happened, and then I even asked my parents, I was like, do you have anything to pass on to us if you ever passed away that we could pass on to our kids? They're like, no, not really. And I was like, I don't want that to happen if something happened to me and I don't have anything to pass on to my kids or I don't have anything to pass on to my grandkids. So what I did, I tried to make a small collection that I could just give them. So I've got Transformers Animated will go to one kid, Transformers Prime will go to one kid, and I've got a big bag. Before the Warner Brothers store closed, I got a huge collection of Powerpuff Girls stuff, and that old Powerpuff Girls cartoon for the girls. And then there's another section of like My Little Pony stuff. So everybody's got something that I can give them that they've never seen any of it before, that I just have it. And that way my kids can have something like my dad specifically got this for me. And once they get it, they can either pass it on to their kids or hopefully some of it might be worth something, by the time they're in their 20s or 30s and they needed money, they could sell it online or whatever and maybe get some money for it. So you never really know. And then the Masterpiece collection, I'm hoping that might retain its value and be worth something someday, and maybe they can keep and pass it on. But with most of the good stuff, I kept the boxes. With the cheap retail stuff, I didn't think into a package for it. Because I thought it might be something that, like, hey, my dad got me this, and now I'm giving it to my kid to play with. Like, this was cool when I was a kid, and my dad got me this, and he handed it down to me when he died. So that's my whole concept was to do it that way. So some of the Transformers Animated toys, that Bumblebee toy, man, he's in the case right over there. Have you ever tried to transform that thing? Those stupid shoulder window things are the worst. I broke 2 of them before I finally got one where I could not mess it up. But yeah, that's one of the ones like, I'm glad it's my kid's toy, not mine, because it just... one of the Masterpiece toys that it looks so cool, but if you're not careful, it will snap so easy. There's quite a few of those in that line, but they look so great, but man, you have to be careful, because the plastic, they use cheaper and cheaper plastic like every year. I mean, our kids, man, when we were kids, like, our toys did not break that easy. I mean, if you transform a thing wrong, it doesn't pop out of place and you put it back on. When we were kids, if you popped it off, you had to super glue it or buy another one. It was broken.
Yeah,
so, yeah. And like, the legs got floppy over time, so we tried to take good care of them so they could still stand up on their own. But yeah, nowadays you can just pop their arms and legs up. Nobody cares, just pop it back on. And my kids constantly, when they were younger, was like, Dad, fix it. Dad, fix it. Dad, I'm like, come on, Dad. It's like, really? Nobody fixed my toys. And I never read the instructions either. Because like I said, it was like a puzzle. It was like a robot in a vehicle. So I was determined, like, I'm going to figure out how to transform this sucker on my own. Even if I have to break it, I'm going to figure this out. And I still do, even with the Masterpiece stuff. I don't look up tutorials, I don't look at the instructions, I try to figure it out on my own. I will look at the picture and see if it's accurate. What always made me laugh when I was a kid, does anybody remember the store Service Merchandise from a very long time ago? They were one of the few people that the stores that actually carried toys when I was 6, 7 years old. And they had, and it was considered kind of a more expensive retail store. So we hardly ever shopped there. And my grandparents had a little bit of money because my grandfather had a pretty good retirement. He worked for the original Ford company back when Model Ts and way back when. So they had decent money, so they would shop at Service Merchandise. So I was poor. We never saw one of those stores. We went in and we saw the toys, and I was just like, holy crap. But it was always funny that this probably happened for more than one store, but it was always funny to get the Service Merchandise, the advertisements. They always transformed wrong in the pictures. I was like, that's not right. Like, why is Shockwave's ears folded down? Like, that's not right. So I just kind of wondered if the people who actually did the advertisements, they had any idea what they're doing. Like, they didn't even bother to look at the instructions. And sometimes, even on the packages itself, they would have Hasbro would transport, well, back then it wasn't Hasbro, it was Mattel at first. They would have them transport wrong on the box. I'm like, what are you guys doing here? This is not what it's supposed to look like.
They were cleaning up the
So I got way off track about which one was the worst toy. Sorry about that.
Okay, do you have any collector's dream of some toys or figure?
Well, once I finally, because I have this. Are you all Transformers fans, or are you just here just because everybody's Transformers? Okay. Have you ever had that nightmare where you've traveled back to the original generation and they have every single generation one mint in box on the shelf, and it has two worst case scenarios? You get to the checkout line and you have no money, or you get them all and you have the money you pay for them, and then you wake up and you don't have them anymore. Like, either way is a lose-lose. So, like, I had that recurring dream over and over again. But once I actually got old enough to actually have my own money, like, even though it's so much more expensive now to find them, you can find most of the stuff still mint in box or close to mint in box. So I pretty much got whichever ones I went back and got the original Shockwave in the box. It cost $700 something.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, I got a really good deal on Scorponok. I'll tell you how this. I don't want you to know this, guys, but at the end of the convention on Sunday, everything's way cheaper because they don't want to put it back in the boxes and take it home. So you're like, hey, I'll give you like $50 for that, you know. So I went and the guy did not want to put it back together and put it in the box. And he was asking, I think he was asking $700 for Scorponok too. And I was like, and it was a really small convention. There was only 12 people at the whole convention. And the guy had a huge display like this one, and he had not made any money. I'm like, I'll give you $350. He's like, sold. I'm like, Scorponok for $350. So yeah, I got Scorponok at a really, really good deal. So those were the main two on my list was Shockwave and Scorponok. So I got one of those. So as far as like Holy Grails or like the best of the best, I've kind of always wanted one of those rare gold Optimus Primes. You know the gold? Yeah. So no. This is a rare Japanese toy where they take the original mold and it's made out of 24 karat plated gold, the entire figure. I forget what it has a very specific name. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I used to think it was like I want to make my own gold lagoon like display and have all my gold there. But they are 10,000. I mean, they're ridiculously expensive because they only make 10 or 15 of that one toy, and they are like considered the most sought after thing. And like, there's no way I'm ever gonna find. I wanted to get so before they did the new Masterpiece Optimus that you had back here, they did the bigger one that was all die cast. Yeah, they made a gold one of that one, and I can't even tell you how much it costs. Like nobody even the 10, 20 people that have one, none of them are even willing to sell it. So I is it called Year of the Dragon, or I forget what it's called. Anyways, it's basically the golden figures. But yeah, I would like to have that gold Masterpiece Optimus Prime. Would be great. I think maybe just an Optimus Prime, because that was a great toy too. It was much bigger. It was like more sturdy than this one. Yeah, but this one's a lot more posable. It's with all the other ones. But yeah, it was the 25th anniversary version.
Well, I hope someday you will be able to get one.
If I can ever convince somebody to part with it, I doubt anybody ever will, unless they get really desperate.
Talking about awesome action figures, many people do not know that you have YouTube channels that were dealing with reviewing prime reviews and
that's kind of what. So I started off my YouTube channel not really knowing what YouTube was. I wish I'd known now what it is compared to when I started. Because it was just a way to make videos. And I didn't even make them for other people to watch. I just made what I wanted to see, you know? So I found a way to like get the cartoons. So I plugged my VCR into my computer, and the video card for that was so expensive at the time. It took 2 paychecks to pay for it at my old job. And I only made $200-300 a week. So it was really expensive to get one. So I would record the footage, and then I put it through a video editor, and back then it would crash every 5 minutes. It was awful. The software back then. Now it's easy. Like I can do what I did back then on my phone now. But back then it took like a lot of processing power, a lot of expensive hardware and stuff. But I would take the video footage and I would like cut together my own versions, like little funny versions of like Transformers. And then I had a lot of toy review friends. Shardamus Prime is one who does a lot of Marvel and a lot of Transformers stuff. My buddy Sean Long did a lot of Transformers stuff. Aquabottomus, Pial, there's a lot of like big Thew is one that's more popular, he's from the UK. And they all would just like, you need to review toys, I'm like, I don't want to review toys. Anybody can pick up a toy and talk about what it is. And it's the same toy that you can go down to the store and buy yourself. Like, why not just go down the street and buy one for $5-10 or whatever, then watch somebody else talking about the toy. I just could not wrap my brain around why you get one. But they were getting so many views on it and building a fan base out of it. And I told them, I was like, okay, if I ever do toy reviews, I'm basically going to make fun of people who do toy reviews. So I had this concept of a character review. It actually didn't start in Transformers though. One of my first professional voiceover gigs, I believe so my very first one was a commercial for a restaurant. But my third gig, I'd only been doing professional voiceover for about 3 months. And I booked Captain Rex from the Clone Wars. And apparently the way it works is the original actors only work on either the games, the movies, or the TV shows. Anything commercial related or toy related was done by a sound alike. That's just how Hasbro did it. And at the time, I didn't do any of the screen actors going to union stuff. I only did the non-union stuff. And they sent me an audition, and they said, we got a Star, and on my list of things I wanted to do was definitely something Star Wars related. And they didn't say what it was for, they just said it was Star Wars, and they told me what the character was, and I knew exactly who it was. So I auditioned for it, and I got the job, and then when I came in, I found out that it was for a toy. And I was like, and that was another thing on my list, was like, I would love to be the voice of a toy. Who doesn't want to be able to go out in public and play with themselves, and nobody can say anything about it? So it wasn't for the full helmet, it was for the one that just has the mask in the front, but they had like 20, there's a lot of phrases for a toy that size. I think it had 20 plus phrases on it. And it was just basic stuff like, scrap those clankers. It's like, well, those clankers have tough armor. You know, so it's just a bunch of phrases like that. And I had this funny idea to have Captain Rex review his own toy. And I recorded it, but the toy didn't come out for 2 more years. So I got bored waiting for the toy to come out. And I was like, well, why don't I just do Optimus Prime reviewing Transformers toys? So I started I got some crappy gloves and started just doing bad reviews on purpose, you know? So I would fumble through the Transformers, because I had gloves on, like you can't transform with, but you can barely transform with your hands. And so I would fumble through and I would make fun of toys. I would make fun of everything that was not an Optimus Prime toy. So I kind of took Optimus Prime's character of being, you know, humble and heroic, and just turned him into this selfish jerk that only likes his own toys. And every time he compared it to other toys, he'd be like,
now this is a real toy, this Optimus Prime.
Because he would even when it was a really good toy, I was just dogging it, like being so mean to it. It was like, it's alright, but this Optimus Prime toy is way, way better. And then I started making jokes about how fat Bumblebee was, and how he was a glory hog. He was always going after all the attention, and really hate. And anytime I reviewed a Megatron toy, I would just literally break it on purpose, you know, just like talking about how horrible it was. And then I started doing where Megatron would come and take over the show. Megatron would mess with an Optimus Prime toy, and it just kind of went from there. And it turned into this big thing, and I was getting really good views. For me, at the time I had 30,000 subscribers, but I was averaging 100,000 views per video. And for an average YouTuber, that's really good. And then when Honest Trailers came along, they're like, you should be part of our network. And then they looked at my content, and it's like, well, most of your stuff is Transformers and toy related. We don't do anything like that. If you're going to be in our network, you have to do stuff that's either movie or game related. And they made me stop doing toy stuff. And that was the worst thing they could have possibly, it ruined my channel. It was like starting all over again at the worst possible time. And all my fans left because I wasn't making Transformers content anymore. And it took me Geez, it took me 3 or 4 years to even get decent views on the movie review stuff. Even though Honest Trailers was hugely popular and I was the main voice for it, it just didn't work out very well. And now I'm just now starting to try to kind of sort of start doing it back again because I got tired. They on top of everything else, they dropped me from their network after telling me to change all my content. I'm like, thanks for ruining my YouTube channel. So yeah, but yeah, I first I did the animated parody stuff, and then I had a former friend of mine used to animate some original animation stuff. So I would take, and my concept was always really, really simple. It was always just take 2 different things and put them together that don't really go together. So I would take a reality show in Transformers, like what would Transformers be like if they were in a reality show? So I made, and you know, in every reality show you have every stereotype. You have a big, muscly, you know, sports guy, and you have, oh, that's pretty cool. It's a giant thing. And you have like the one really hot girl that's, you know, really flirty, you know, and then you have the one like jerky guy that's always like messing with the girl. So I obviously made Wheeljack into that guy, and I made how do I put this delicately in today's politically correct world? I made RC's chassis very large, and I even made a joke. It's like, and she started washing the chassis and everything. So it was like, so I was just making fun of I was just took 2 different things that didn't really go together, put them together. And some of them worked and some of them didn't, but I won awards at BotCon for some of those videos, and that's actually kind of how I first got introduced to Hasbro in the first place. But until Honest Trailers became such a big thing, then the people at Hasbro knew who I was. And then Machinima were working with Hasbro for Combiner Wars, and they knew who I was, or knew who I was. And so they actually contacted me. I didn't even have to audition for Optimus Prime. Once they saw my videos, they were like, yeah, we want you to be Optimus Prime. And I'm like, yeah, okay, absolutely. But I make sure up front, it's like, if Peter Cullen wants to do this, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm not going to take a job from any other voice actor, because that's just not how I work. I wouldn't want somebody to come to me and be like, yeah, they wanted you for this job, but they offered me less money, so I just did it. Like, I would never do that to another voice actor, because especially, he created the character voice. Like, I didn't. I'm just sounding like him. But yeah, so, and because of that, because of Combiner Wars, even though it was a different kind of show, it was much shorter. I mean, the entire season's only 45 minutes long. All the episodes together is only 45 minutes. And it wasn't on TV, it wasn't even on YouTube until later on. In fact, they told us that it wasn't even going to be on any kind of disc, it wasn't going to be on Blu-ray or anything, and then they did it anyway. They didn't pay anybody any extra for it. Yeah, so it was a very, very low budget. But because of that, Hasbro heard what I did, and they were like, we have a lot of work that we'd like to talk to you about, because there's a lot of stuff. So in fact, I don't know what this means exactly, but they said they've been looking for somebody like me for a long time. Wow. That actually made me, I was happy at first, but then I kind of got concerned as like maybe Peter Cullen's health is not so good or something, you know, so I don't know. In fact, it also bothers me that Frank Welker never did any kind of public appearances, ever. He was very reclusive, he just kind of stayed in his own house. He was with my same agency. In fact, when I went to go sign my contract for the very first time with my current agency, he was still with them. I found out when I came in that he was there 15 minutes before I got there. I would have got to meet Frank Welker. I'm like, oh, could have shaken hands with Megatron, and I was like right there. But I was too nervous. I was sitting in the parking lot. I was too nervous to go in too early. I don't want to seem too eager, so I didn't want to go in sooner. And he never comes to the studio. He never comes there. And I was like, man, I missed him by that much. And then all of a sudden, he decided he was going to start doing convention appearances, which also made me concerned. Maybe his health is not so good. Maybe he's just finally like, okay, now that things aren't, I'm not feeling very well. I think fans have been wanting to meet me for a long time. So I don't know what they meant by that when they said that to me. But I'm happy for the work. But they know that if he wants to do the job, that I'm out. So and there's 2 reasons why they would hire me. A is if it's way too under budget for him, or if they need it back so fast that he can't get to it, because he lives in Pasadena, which is a really long drive from Los Angeles, and they know that I'm 20 minutes away, and I can get there like this, and they have to send a driver to go get him. He has a ranch way out in Pasadena, and then they drive all the way back and record, and his fee is a lot.
Have you ever met Peter Cullen?
Yeah, several times. Yeah. And before he knew that I was doing Optimus Prime's voice, it was very, very nice to me. But then later on, now that he knows who I am and he knows that I do Optimus Prime's voice, I'm not so sure anymore. You laugh, but I feel horrible because he's like my hero, you know? Like an actual version of Optimus Prime to me in human form. He was like what made me want to become a voice actor. And to even think that he might not like me because of this, but I've heard that he's very protective of his character and that he doesn't like doing panels with any other Optimus Prime voice actors because he's not been the only one. There's been at least 6 or more different Optimus Primes because there's a guy named Rick who does the voices for some of the toys. Not very well. Oh, Rick's not watching this. Nice guy, but you know he has to put a lot of effects on it to make it sound right. He does the voices for Optimus Primes and like the greeting cards and for some of the toys. If anybody has heard any of the English version of Optimus Prime, like the Rescue Bots, it's like I am Optimus. That's his Optimus Prime. It sounds cool. I love the guy, but it doesn't sound very good. In fact, Hasbro was like, would you be willing to go back and do some voices for him? I'm like, are you kidding me? To be the voice of a Transformer toy? Yeah, I would do that. And then they never called me back, so I don't know. Rick has his own studio though. They don't just do the voices, they do all of the editing for all the commercials, all the sound effects, all the music. So I have a feeling that they do a package deal, voice, music, sound effects, full production at a very small rate because they have their own studio. I can't offer them the same thing.
Well, I believe you'll be seeing more Transformers content in the future.
Yeah, I haven't given up on it yet. And as long as Hasbro keeps hiring me for things, so far, I mean, I guess it's okay to talk about this now because at the time it was under a non-disclosure agreement, but they had me actually record, it's called a sizzle reel. And I don't know why they call it that. I don't know. That name doesn't make any sense to me. But basically what it is it's a pitch or a concept to try to get a studio to pick something up, like a movie or a TV show. So they had me record as young Optimus Prime for the next version of Rescue Bots or whatever that was going to be. And they said it was going to be something in between Rescue Bots and Transformers Prime. It was going to be kind of in between those two. And it was a prequel. It was back on Cybertron. Optimus Prime has just become Optimus Prime. He was just Orion Pax. It's like him and his little brother Bumblebee. That's how they pictured it to be. The Decepticons weren't fully bad yet. They were just kind of like high school bullies. It was a very odd way to pitch it. And then what they ended up doing was Rescue Bots Academy instead. So I don't know what exactly happened, but the original goal was they're like, we actually don't want Peter Cullen for this. We want an original version, like would be a young version of Optimus Prime, kind of based on Peter Cullen's voice. And they said, we think that you already sound like that with your own, like it just sounds like a young Optimus Prime. But the goal was, he told me the goal was to get them used to hearing my voice to eventually become that character. I was so hoping. And I actually auditioned for Robots in Disguise as well, but they hired Jim Cummings instead, which is, I mean, Jim Cummings is the voice of Winnie the Pooh. So, I mean, how can you not love that guy? Like, I'm glad he got the job. So, but to be any original character that was not Optimus, that I wasn't just filling in for another actor, because so many of them are passing away, and it's like more and more every year. We lost 2 voice actors from Transformers last year, and there's just so many of them are getting Alan Oppenheimer. If you watched the English version of Neverending Story, he was Falcor, but he was also Sea Spray, and he was wow, wow, and he did a ton of them, and he's in his mid-80s now, and most of them are only getting older, and so if they wanted to do any other thing with the original voice actors, they're going to have to start filling in with other people who sound like them. Same thing with so I don't know if anybody knows this or not. Like I said, did anybody actually watch Transformers in English? Okay, so you guys would know the voice. So the original voice of the year 2005, that guy, his name is Victor Caroli. Everybody assumes he's dead. He's retired in Florida. And I stumbled across him. I'm like, I don't know if that's the same Victor Caroli. And then I contacted him, and he was like, yeah, I'll do an interview, blah, blah, blah. So when they made the first, what was the first Transformers console? Was it Transformers War for Cybertron? I think that was the first one, right? Yeah, was it War for Cybertron? Okay, yeah. Yeah, because there was that one and the one that came out. So the first one, they wanted to hire him. He wanted $30,000 to record just that first little bit at the beginning of the game. And he said anything Transformers related, $30,000. That's what his agent was asking for. So Steve Bloom, the voice of Starscream from Transformers Prime, did his impression of it. It's included in his other work that he was already doing for the game, because he's Shockwave in the game. So this is gonna sound like for him. And I'm like, you know, at your age, and people already think you're dead, maybe want to rethink your rate a little bit lower. Because most of us, we only make 900 for 4 hours of the 3 voices, and you're asking for 30,000. That's a lot of money. So I'm not going to be picky. If they want me to do anything, I'm like, yes, I will do it. I don't care what the rate is. And my manager, my agency, they're not happy about it because sometimes Hasbro pays really well, and sometimes they pay lower budget. And they get mad at me when I'm like, you don't need to accept these on, let us negotiate. I'm like, look, you have to understand, Hasbro has always been my favorite. Transformers has always been my favorite. I don't care if they say, we're going to pay you in sunflower seeds, I'll take it. Because I love Transformers. Exactly. I've done some, so they do sales videos when they do a launch of a new toy. They'll do a sales video for Walmart, they'll do a sales video for Target, and they'll actually have, so they had the cool idea of having me as Optimus Prime talking to the Walmart employees, talking about
we humans and robots must work together.
This is like some cool heroic speech talking about the new toy line. Sometimes it's for children's hospital stuff. Seeing movie Optimus Prime and fully animated with my voice on there, and not only did that, they actually had me record myself on camera so they could animate Optimus to my face while I'm doing the voice. Yeah, it was, for me, I was like a 5-year-old. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. And one thing they want me to do that it's not even a paid job. I mean, they're going to cover the cost of travel or whatever. But one thing that they're working on doing is that they want to fly me over to Rhode Island, which is where their Hasbro's main business is, and they have a Hasbro's Children's Hospital right next door. And they have a brand new technology, so it's like motion capture, but it's also live. So they're going to have me in one room, and they're going to have the kids with cancer or whatever illness that they're going to have in the next room with a monitor, like a big monitor, and I'm in the next room with a mocap suit on, and I've got a 2-way camera so I can see the kids in my room, and they can see Optimus Prime on the screen in their room, and physically interact with them as Optimus Prime. And I'm like, yeah, I am totally down to do that. That sounds amazing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want it?
Yeah, we want it.
If I was a sick kid and Optimus Prime came down there and was talking to me, are you kidding me? I would want to get better so bad. You know what I mean? That would give me something to live for. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, I would do that. I would do that all day. And it's something that mocap's been around for a while.
Yeah.
But motion capture, doing it live, like, I mean, you see how basic it is in Snapchat and in Instagram. Like, those filters aren't that great. Being able to do a full rig live right next door and being able to see them and they can see Optimus, that's groundbreaking for me. I mean, that's really cool. And yeah, so the only other thing that would come even close to that is they try to squish my fat body into one of those big suits from Universal Studios and walk around. But a lot of those guys actually are not the voice. There's a guy in the suit, and then there's guys somewhere else with a microphone. In fact, the 2 times I've been to Universal Studios Hollywood, I've been offered a job to be Optimus Prime. I'm like, I couldn't afford to be away from home for 8 hours a day just for 10 an hour just to do Optimus Prime's voice. So but that's pretty cool. My friend Jason is not only the voice of Superman in the new Justice League Action, he's actually Megatron at Universal Studios too, which is cool. So yeah, I've got quite a few friends that do voices. In fact, if you go to my YouTube channel and you watch where, so Paramount sent me out to I think it's called Formosa Speedway. It's a racetrack, and they had me actually drive some of the cars from the last Transformers. I got to drive a Lamborghini and a Ferrari. One of the coolest experiences, and I got to record the whole thing. So they had cameras inside the car. You can see like the dash, how fast we're going. I think I got up to 98 kilometers. No, I got up to 116 kilometers an hour. Because it's not a straight track. It's like very curvy. But that one straight track, and I was just... And I used to like Lamborghinis better because of Sideswipe. Yeah. But then when I drove the Ferrari, I'm like, okay, I like Ferrari better now. That thing's got some power, man.
Italians do know their superpower.
Yeah, so
right?
my point of getting to that was, though, my friend and I were trying to figure out a good way to shoot an introduction for the video. I'm like, why don't we go to Universal Studios and wait till Optimus Prime comes out and then do our intro that way? And he's like, oh yeah, it's great. So while I'm sitting there shooting my introduction, the Optimus Prime guy in the suit's like, you there in the blazer, what are you doing? And I turned around, I was like,
actually, my name is Optimus Prime.
He's like,
we know who you are, Commander. You're from the XCOM.
I was like, oh, he knows who I am. And I found out later it was a guy who knew who I was. I didn't know him at the time, but he recognized me. Pointed me out in the crowd. We recorded the whole thing, so you can go to my YouTube channel and watch that. It's so funny. And everyone's like, well, did you plan that? I'm like, no, I had no idea. because I wasn't even in line. I was just standing outside the line, and he just kind of like, "You there with the camera, the producer."
Wow.
I think he was mad because my Optimus Prime was better than his.
Well, that's why they want to hire you, right?
Probably, but you know what? I can't fit in the suit, and I can't afford to be there all day long for 10 an hour. It doesn't pay very well.
Well, it's the loss.
Yeah, right. You know, I mean, if they want to pay me my normal rate, that'd be great. That would be great with me.
Well, you basically had one of our dream roles we could ever have, the role of Optimus Prime.
It's a dream come true for me just to work on anything Transformers officially. You know, because I was just happy being known as like Internet Prime for a long time because everybody was like, "Oh, you're the guy who does Optimus Prime on YouTube."
Yeah.
But now I'm the guy who actually does Optimus Prime
In life, right?
in actual stuff. So yeah, I'm officially part of canon now. Apparently, even though they replaced me in the second season.
Well, come on, we're in the first one.
Well, I was only I can't say what I really want to say on camera because I don't want to ever offend Hasbro because even when it's bad, I mean, come on, the movies, you know what I mean. But look at where we come from just getting a little toy commercial cartoon and a handful of toys to where we are now, and it's a huge brand that's still going over 30 years later. So I can't help but be glad that even if they're making movies that are not the best movies ever, they're still making stuff and they're still making more toys and they're still going. So even with combiners, like they got Mark Hamill in there now. I mean, holy crap, man, Mark Hamill! I could have worked with Mark Hamill. It's this close. Ron Perlman's going to be in the next season. I'm just so good. And they kept my buddy Jason in because they made Megatron a more fun character. People liked him. They made me into Expositionless Prime, and I'm like a piece of cardboard just spouting out information. So I don't. In fact, if you actually go to Machinima's YouTube channel and watch they did 4 videos, like pre-videos leading up to Combiner Wars. For me, I think I was allowed to have more because they kept like trying to change how
I wanted to do Optimus Prime the way Optimus Prime is Optimus Prime, and they wanted me to do Optimus Prime like this, and I was like, that's not Optimus Prime. They're like, well, we want it to be new but familiar. And then they hired Peter Cullen to come back and do his own voice. I'm like, no, you didn't. So, but in that prequel trailer, they let me go full Optimus for it. So yeah, like the video just starts off with the truck just rolling. It's like, my name is Optimus Prime, and I am no longer the leader of the Autobots.
And I was like, that's the way you do Optimus, not this other way. Like, I mean, anybody can just do their voice like this. It's like, you know, yeah, I'm Optimus Prime. Yeah, me too.
Is there any your dream voice role you would like to have?
See, I don't want to say that because Shockwave's always been my favorite, but there's a lot of established voices for Shockwave already. My buddy David Sobolov. I told them a little secret I can't tell you guys because I'm pretty sure they're going to post it all over the internet.
The best is not.
David Sobolov was Depth Charge in Beast Wars. That's how he first got into Transformers. And then he was Shockwave in Transformers Prime, and I believe... Did he ever come back in Robots in Disguise? Because I'm off by a season or two. I know Starscream came back, but I don't know if Shockwave... Because Shockwave and Starscream survived Transformers Prime, and this is like the sequel show. But David Sobolov did Shockwave too, but he's also... I guess I can say this, because it's not going to be the finished version, but I've been filling in for Optimus Prime for the new Bumblebee trailer. So, or the movie, not the trailer, the movie. They're going to have Peter Cullen come in and replace me, but... David Sobolov's actually one of the new characters, and he's a fan favorite, and he's a triple changer. That's all I'm going to say. And I think they've had triple changers in the movies before, haven't they? I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. And he was barely even in it. But this is a main character who's an actual triple changer. I'm not going to tell you who it is. And I'm not 100% sure they're going to leave him. I hope you can cut this out of there. You're going to get me so fired. But yeah, so I got to meet a lot of the people who were doing voices for the Bumblebee movie, but they told us up front some of this may end up in the final version, and some of it may not. We just don't know. Because if there's one thing there's one thing I do really love about the Transformers movies, and I know they were like, you actually love something in the Transformers movies? Well, they didn't just hire celebrities for the characters.
Yeah.
DreamWorks is well known for casting all famous people for everything. You know what I mean? Like it's always Brad Pitt or George Clooney or whatever, or Jack Black. It's Kung Fu Panda, and like they're either B-list or A-list stars. Transformers actually hires voice actors to do like Jess Harnell. They hired Peter Cullen. Originally, they wanted to get Liam Neeson or George Clooney. Yeah, right. Like who wants to hear that coming out of Optimus Prime's mouth? So I'm glad that they're still using voice actors like David Sobolov, and because these guys are good at what they do. I mean, David Sobolov used to be his only real claim to fame for a long time. The one that people recognized him for was Depth Charge, and that was it. And he had a few game credits. And then all of a sudden, after he got Shockwave, then he became Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, and then he just started, he's doing great now. He's really big. I mean, he's physically big too. He has no neck. He's just like a giant muscle walking around. He's a huge dude. I'm glad they got actual voice actors because these guys know they've been doing it for years. They know exactly what they're doing. And sometimes celebrities they're better. Put it to you this way: Cameron Diaz was not famous because she's a good actor. She's famous because she's pretty. Because then you watch Shrek and you realize how bad an actor she is. You put any actor behind a microphone, you can tell whether they're a good actor or a bad actor, or whether they just got famous because they're good looking. It took a long time for Brad Pitt to go from being hired for being good looking to being hired to being a good actor. Because a lot of them realized, I'm not very good at this. I should actually go get some training and some coaching. Voice actors already did all that. We've done tons and tons. I can't even tell you how many coaching sessions I've done. Just we always trying to constantly improve and get better and better and better. So I'm really glad that Hasbro has stuck to that and not just hired. I mean, Leonard Nimoy was not he's not a super big celebrity, but having him as Sentinel Prime, that was amazing because he was Galvatron in the animated movie. So kudos to Paramount and Hasbro for making sure that they actually got voice actors who knew what they were doing to do the characters.
Especially when we do it so well, right?
Exactly. And one thing, I'm not going to spoil anything by saying this, I don't think. And I totally lost my train of thought about what I was going to say. Anyways. I was saying, there is a way, because, I mean, we're not just Transformers, we get G.I. Joe stuff, too. Any fans of the G.I. Joe movies? No hands. I already knew that was going to happen. I thought the second movie was actually pretty good. I mean, Dwayne Johnson knows how to make a fun movie. They may not be the best movies, but they are freaking fun. And there is a way to save G.I. Joe. All they have to do is throw Dwayne Johnson on Optimus Prime's shoulder, and who's not going to want to go see that crossover movie? I'm just saying, Paramount.
Come on.
That's an easy one. You can bring your franchise back up, make some new toys. Who doesn't want to see Bruce Willis ride around and whoever replaces Ironhide? Like, he could be in Hound. I would see Bruce Willis drive around Hound. Right?
Come on.
Who wouldn't want to see that? You know that Marvel shot from the first Avengers movie? Yeah. The giant panorama? I want to see Dwayne Johnson on Optimus Prime's shoulder with his giant gun. And Optimus Prime shooting that way, and he's shooting, and they're panning around. I'm I want to see that freaking movie so much. You can still say G.I. Joe, Paramount. You can still do it.
There's a chance, right?
There's a chance. I'm crossing my fingers. If they just listen to me, they'd live longer. I don't know. But short round told Indiana Jones that. I think that holds true today. You listen to me, you live longer.
Okay, I've got a fun question for you.
Sure.
If you would be a Transformer, what would you transform into?
If I could be a Transformer, I would definitely transform into the Lamborghini. It had to be a triple changer too, because I need to be able to fly. So it had to be a jet, and it had to be a Lamborghini, and it had to have a lot of purple because that's my favorite color. So.
Purple Lamborghini, right?
Yeah, I would drive around as a favorite purple Lamborghini. Who wouldn't?
Okay. What is your favorite Transformers cartoon of all time? If you could choose
that's a hard question because they keep making good stuff. A lot of people didn't like animated, but animated was a really great show that combined a lot of new with a lot because they had stuff from Energon in it, they had stuff from G1 in it. In fact, there's some episodes that you put them side by side, they almost identically copied some of the original G1 cartoons. And my kids really liked that show too. And it was back at the time when Ben 10 was really popular. And the Jackie Chan show. So there was a lot of shows that were animated that style. And at the time, I was like, this is actually a really good Transformers cartoon. It had a lot of depth, and they gave plenty of character development to the characters. They made Megatron really cool instead of this crazy, insane version that he used to be. But then Transformers Prime came along, and it was like the DC movie version of Transformers. It's all of a sudden the bad guys are actually dark and brooding, and the Autobots have real problems. Not to mention Dwayne Johnson as a Transformer, tricky clip jumper, and then they killed him off in the first episode. I'm like, this is cool and edgy and new and different. So I really like Transformers Prime too, but I guess I have to still say G1 because it was the whole reason why I like everything else. Without G1, nothing else would exist. So without the success, and they took a lot of risks back then because they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, if you've ever watched, I can't wait till what's the Toys That Made Us or the new Netflix series? Yeah. So when they do I can't wait to see the Transformers episode because after watching the one about He-Man, I'm like, that's probably exactly because I met Bob Budiansky as the guy who came up with all the information on the back of the boxes, the catchphrases. He wrote a lot of the comics. He actually helped write some of the cartoons too, I believe. And the guy he just come up with the freedom of the right of all is the right of all sentient beings. Bob wrote that. And now it's like one of his main catchphrases, you know? I mean, who doesn't instantly recognize
freedom is the right of all sentient beings?
You know, it's just freaking awesome. I mean, you know, and I think those guys just wanted to sell toys. But they did some things that other people had not done before, and they made characters they weren't just standard. They weren't just typical characters. It wasn't just good guy, bad guy. They gave them personalities, and it's one of those rare shows where anybody can be a fan of any particular. It doesn't even have to be a main character, you know? Because now it's so different because you have like 5 good guys and like 5 bad guys and a whole bunch of drones that all look the same. That's kind of like their standard go-to now. But back then, you had hundreds, literally, of characters to choose from, and everybody had a different favorite. Some people like Trax. Some people like Hound. Some people like Prowl. Some people, I mean, I freaking love Soundwave. It was freaking cool, man. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And there's only one episode where they didn't put the effects on. You actually could hear what Soundwave sound like. And then you realize he's just Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
I'll get you next time, Optimus. Next time.
And Ravager's like, yeah, I mean, and that was one of the few, like, he looked like a real thing. Like, the tape recorder deck, like, that looked so freaking real. And the Masterpieces, that's one of the best toys they've made, is the Masterpiece Soundwave. So, yeah, it's just one of those shows, like, G1, it started all that. So, I can't help but just love that particular series the most. Because I wouldn't have anything else without it. So, it's tough, because there's something to love in every series. You know, and there's still crazy people who think that Transformers R.I.D. was a great show. They had a flying robot shark.
Sounds great on paper, right?
You know, if they released that now, people probably would have thought, flying robot sharks, yeah, I love that.
Shark Week was fun.
Exactly. But back then, like, but there's still people that are fans of that, and that was a weird one. That was a weird Transformers show.
It certainly was. One thing we would like to settle once and for all.
Okay.
Frenzy, red or blue?
I always said that Frenzy was red and Rumble was blue. I always did. Because, I mean, that's the way. I mean, if you're going to put it on the package, you go by the toy. The toys came out first. So I go by the toys. So when they put it in, and then somebody said, well, no, he was supposed to. Well, no, you know what? The box says Rumble and Frenzy, and that's the colors that they were. So, yeah, that's what I always did. And when I made my animated stuff on YouTube, I made sure that Rumble was Rumble and Frenzy was Frenzy.
It's very
and a lot of people in the comments like, that's the wrong character. But they're like, no, this is right. You're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about, man.
And who do you think would win in Optimus Prime Battle Royale? Of all Optimus from
all the Optimuses? Yeah. Oh man, that's a really good question.
Remember that you were there too, so.
Oh, jeez. I'll be honest, Power Master Optimus was always my favorite one. As far as like toy, you get a really cool look for it. Did anybody see when they made the animated movie, they put it on TV for the very first time? And they had a big, giant, stop-motion Optimus, Power Master Optimus Prime. He's got the little kid in his hand. That blew me away. I'm like, please tell me this is a show. That they're making a show. And all they did was come out with Generation 2, which was just like a re-edited version of it. I was so disappointed. But seeing that made me want to, that was always like, I had to have that toy like right away. But as far as like in a real fight, honestly, even though the movie was not the greatest, the Revenge of the Fallen Optimus Prime with Jetfire would probably kick the crap out of any other Optimus.
Sad to hear that he has to become Revenge of the Fallen.
Yeah, I mean, that's at least the one really cool thing we got from that movie was that, man. I never actually could find Jetfire to put the two together because I wanted to buy that toy. But I've seen so many people, have you ever tried to transform it? It's awful to transform it. It's so hard.
I got mine a few months ago. So after years of
be afraid. Be very afraid. I heard they break very easily too.
Oh. Okay, do we have some audience questions? Would you like to ask some?
Yes. You have to yell because it's really hard to hear in here.
So we would like you to say Liam Neeson phrase, maybe from Taken, with Optimus Prime's voice.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Sorry. It took a little while to wrap my brain around that one.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you're looking for money, I can tell you I don't have any. But what I do have is a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over many, many years. your face.
I don't remember the whole thing from memory. I'm sorry.
And another one with ordinary Optimus Prime voice from Star Trek. We are the Borg Resistance.
Oh, yeah, that's an easy one. Are you want to record this one? All right.
We are the Borg. Resistance is futile.
There you go.
Is somebody else for that next question?
Top 3 Starscream incarnation from comics, shows, etc.
Just what my favorite version?
Yes.
Dude, that's really hard. I don't know if a lot of people knew this, but Chris Latta, the original voice of Starscream, actually died really young. He was a stand-up comedian. He was also the voice of Wheeljack. He'd never done any cartoon stuff before, and they found him and they're like, this guy's great, we gotta get this guy. I'm actually friends with his daughter, and I'm trying to help her get more into doing voiceover, which is really cool. I mean, I would love to be part of her success story. Because, you know, she's Starscream's daughter, kind of. But I'll be honest, I think my favorite version of Starscream has got to be Transformers Animated. Because they made his personality so much better than, he was like an improvement on the original version. And Tom Kenny he's such a nice guy. Like, he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And it's so weird that the guy who does the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants like sees me in the studio and is like, oh, hey, John, what's up? It's like, it's pretty SpongeBob right there. But his Starscream was just so unique. It was, you could tell it was based on the original version. It had a very similar sound to Chris Latta, but he was just so much better. You know what I mean? And they actually made his name make sense in that movie too, which is one of the things I loved about Animated. Everybody's name kind of showed what kind of power they had. Like Thundercracker had the power to make thunder things, and Starscream had that sonic scream thing. I just freaking love that. Yeah, it's got to be Transformers Animated. A lot of people disagree with me because Transformers Prime version is really cool too, but Animated, man, it's kind of like the best of every Starscream all in one.
Great. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, stranger that I've never seen before.
So I have a question about your family. How does your family react to your voice acting? And do you do it generally at home? And
I would if my wife didn't get so irritated doing voices all the time. My kids think it's great, but they can be a lot like crazy convention fans too. Like, Daddy do no, Daddy do no, Daddy read this, do this noise, and do that. You know, so it can get annoying. But and anytime they have anything at school, they want to parade me around. Like, look at my dad. I'm like, you know, it's a lot of the. I don't know if this is a phrase that translates outside of the U.S., but they call them trophy wives. Like, you know, like a guy, a rich, you know, famous guy marries like a super hot, you know, model or whatever. My dad's the voice of Optimus Prime. I'm like, okay, that's kind of misleading. I'm not the voice of Optimus Prime. You know, yeah, they parade me around and they're like, Dad, do another voice, do another. And their friends will come over and like, hey, can you do so-and-so's voice? Can you do so-and-so's voice? I'm like, okay, I'm not a voice monkey. You're going to have to start paying me after a while to do these voices for you. But no, they're all really excited. They're extremely supportive. If they weren't supportive, I wouldn't be here. So you guys can thank my family for me actually going through with this convention. But yeah, and my son Tyler, he's not the autistic one, the third born. He loves doing voices too. Like, he wants to he wants to be a voice actor, but he doesn't want to be an actor. I don't know how that makes sense. And he's like, I love doing voices, but I don't really want to like go in and like do voices in like shows and stuff. I just like doing voices. I'm like, hey, whatever floats your boat. But he's always trying to impress me. You know what I mean? He's like trying to make me think that, oh, you did a good job on that voice. But he's like, Dad, listen to this voice. I'm Optimus Prime. Like, yeah, that's really good, buddy. Really good. Because I mean, when I was 6 years old, that's what my Optimus Prime sounded like too. He's like, my name is Optimus Prime. I'll deliver up your rights.
One last thing I would like to ask you.
Hey, I can stay as long as you want. I got nothing else to do.
That's also.
Any more questions? Knock yourself out.
Do you have any more questions? No.
Yeah, I knew I saw at least one more. See, there's two more hands. See, he's trying to get me out of here, guys.
Soon you won't be able to go out, so you know.
I got nowhere else to go, man. I can't exactly go home from here. It'd be a really long walk. I have to walk over water, too.
First of all, it's an honor to speak to you, so thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is there like a character outside the Transformers universe that you'd like, really like to portray?
Oh, absolutely. There's so many great. Like Voltron.
Top three.
Voltron is like one of the number ones. Anything DC animated. DC makes the best animated movies. Shows, they used to be the best in shows, but their animated movies are insanely good. So yeah, anything. I actually auditioned for Riddler for the Arkham Asylum games. I was so disappointed. I didn't realize what it was at the time. They didn't tell us. Because they don't know what, until recently, they didn't tell us what the games were. They didn't tell us what the characters' names were. They just gave us the description. And that kind of, when you have more, the more information you have, the better you can do in your job. And if I had known I was auditioning for the Riddler, I would have totally done things differently. So, but anytime I get anything DC, I'm like, oh, please let me get it. And Ninja Turtles would probably be on the top of my list. I'm still hoping for some shows, because when I auditioned for the new Thundercats, and then I found out that it was going to be like Teen Titans Go, and like, maybe I dodged a bullet. Because I thought it was going to be more like that really short version, which was a really good version of Thundercats, but it got cut really short. If it come out now, it'd be doing great. If they stuck that on Netflix, it'd be doing just as good as Voltron is. But my new favorite that I was really hoping for Gravity Falls. That was such a good show. I mean, where's the guy with the hat? Where'd he go? Where's Ashton Kutcher at? Sasha Kutcher. Who looks like Ashton Kutcher with Gravity Falls? Yeah, see, I mean, I auditioned for Gravity Falls, and Nathan Fillion beat me out for the role. And I was like, you know what, I can't be mad at that. Everybody loves Nathan Fillion. But yeah, the rich dad and the little spoiled brat girl. And I would have loved to be in Gravity Falls. I can't just limit it to 3. I would love to be in Star vs. Forces of Evil. I have so many friends in that show, and it's such a fun show. And then Troll Hunters. If you haven't watched Troll Hunters on Netflix, that show is amazing. It made me feel like when I was a kid watching Transformers for the first time. All I could think of was like, I hope they make that vehicle. I hope they make that toy. Like, it is a really good show. So yeah, I guess I have like a top 5 or 6. Yeah, so there was one more though. Oh, 2 more. I'm sorry. Blue's first, and then yeah.
We've hardly ever mentioned Beast Wars during our interview, so what do you think about that franchise?
I love Beast Wars. I was so happy when Transformers came back, and it was computer animated, and at the time that was like brand new. In fact, I just recently let my kids start watching Reboot, because they made a sequel to Reboot, which is not very good, no offense. But I was so glad that like they kept some of the characters the same. But yeah, Beast Wars was kind of, it started off rough. It was a little slow. It was really hard to get used to Optimus Prime being a gorilla. That was the hardest part for me. Megatron as a Tyrannosaurus Rex was freaking awesome. I mean, that was so cool. But they had some things that were like Dinobot switching sides and stuff. That stuff was like still kind of new, because I missed all the Energon and all that stuff where Starscream was good and then he's bad. I had to go back and catch up on all those like in my 30s. I was in college at the time. Didn't have TV, didn't have access to anything. I was like, there was no TVs allowed in our dorm. So I missed like 3 different seasons or series. I missed all the Energon trilogy. So Dinobot, going from bad to bad to good again, like that was all new. And I thought the toys were really cool. I'd never been a big fan of like Beast Mode toys, other than like Ravage and a few other like Laserbeam. It was only like Beast we got until I guess Skylynx and the monster stuff came out later on. But yeah, it was a unique concept. But then when they started tying it into Generation 1, that show was freaking awesome. And like, I don't know if anybody else had the same feeling I did, but when Ravage transformed into a cassette and started jamming out with the old school Decepticon symbol, and they never even made that toy. I mean, they finally did the Japanese version. I've actually got one signed by my friend. I actually have one of my best friends. His name is Lee Tokar. He's in like 15 different cartoons right now. He was the voice of Ravage, and at the time he was in his 20s, I think. And they were like, we got to get you in Beast Wars. All those guys that are in Beast Wars, they're all friends. Like, they're all David Cage, they're all buddies. David Cage, David Soboff, everybody in that show, they were all buddies. It was all done in Vancouver. Gary Chalk, he's a friend of mine too. Gary Chalk and David Cage have been Optimus Prime and Megatron for like a lot of stuff. Because they were the same in all the Energon stuff too. It was all Gary. And
Gary had that more interest. He didn't quite sound like Optimus Prime. He had that, Transformers Max, Maximals Maximize.
He had a unique way of doing it, which I really thought was cool. But seeing the arc and the fact that and it blew my mind. This whole thing's a time travel story. You didn't know that up front. But yeah, when Ravage transformed into the tape deck, and he says Decepticons forever. I was like, holy freaking crap balls! This is the greatest episode of Transformers ever made. So, and I was so disappointed that it ended so quickly and abruptly. It was like, So I keep hoping that right now everybody's living in the 80s nostalgia. I'm hoping eventually 90s nostalgia will start kicking in, so they'll start rebooting. I mean, they rebooted Reboot. Why can't they reboot Beast Wars? Why not? They're still making Beast Wars toys.
Yeah.
Why not? I thought it was a great show.
And how do you feel about Beast Machines, the continuation of Beast Wars?
Yeah, Beast Machines is not as good.
Yeah.
It had a lot of things that I did like in it, and it had I liked the story arc. That was actually kind of cool. The fact that I don't want to. Has anybody not seen Beast Wars? Okay, good.
I agree because there's so many.
The fact that Rhinox and Tank War, that whole thing, I thought that was really cool. Like that was like even as because I was watching that when I was 15 or 16 at the time. I was like, whoa, I didn't see that coming at all. So yeah, I thought that was great. Yeah, Beast Wars was a really good show. I apologize for not mentioning it sooner. Yeah, that was a good series. Not my favorite, but it was really good. Yeah. When Optimus Primal gets the Matrix out of Optimus Prime, his eyes light up just for a second. I'm like, that is so freaking cool. In fact, one of my most viewed video on YouTube, I think it's pushing 3 million views now. It's called the Rude Awakening of Optimus Prime, or something like that. And it's like, so if anybody knows anything about YouTube Transformers videos from way back when, a guy goes, Dr. Smooth made the Rude Awakening, and I contacted him. Yeah, I contacted him and I said, would you be cool if I did a prequel to that for Beast Wars? He's like, yeah, I don't own the right. You can do whatever you want. I was like, I just want to make sure it was cool first. So I actually did, where Optimus Prime wakes up, but he actually starts talking with all the characters, like, why do you have mouths? Why do you have teeth? What do you need teeth for? So there's a lot of fun jokes in there.
Do we have any more questions?
He had one more. He's already had a question now. Like, I don't know.
You're having so much questions. Come on, share with others.
I have a question about the best film Transformers. Yes, the animated movie. What do you like it? And what do you think about the voice of Megatron that Leonard Nimoy did it?
I didn't think that was a bad idea. I thought Leonard Nimoy was actually a really cool version of Galvatron. I thought that was really cool. In fact, that's why I thought it was so great when they brought him back as Sentinel Prime. Because I was like, every true Transformers fan's like, oh, they brought Leonard Nimoy back. And I heard for a long time Leonard Nimoy, he was mean to fans about it. Like, people would wait in line to get autographs and somebody come up with a Transformers poster, and he would refuse to sign it. I don't know why he hated even being in that, but I thought it was a great choice for that. But yeah, the animated movie was, my only real complaint about the animated movie was the same complaint that everybody else had, that they just wiped out all the old toys to make new ones. And I felt like, I don't want to spoil anything if you have not seen Avengers Infinity War, but it was the same feeling. Like, nothing, it didn't feel meaningful. It was just, and it's not over because it didn't have any meaning to it, If some character, like when Optimus Prime, again, he's done it like 30 times by now, starting way back with the comic. He sacrificed himself so many times and died and then come back. So when a character sacrifices themselves to save everybody, like, because they did that in the comics, the comic version of the movie was way different. Like, it was Power Master Optimus Prime, and the Matrix had turned evil, and the Matrix thought it could take on Unicron, but Unicron was already evil, and it couldn't help him. Then Optimus Prime gets the Matrix back, and he flies into Unicron with the Matrix and opens it up, and just blows it away. It was just so cool. Scorponok died, finally changing his mind, helping the Autobots instead of fighting against him. And it was just like, that to me, that was like, if they'd made this movie, holy crap, So, in the movie, I had 2 complaints. One was that they got rid of so many characters without any real, they were just kind of cameos. And I'm like, these are the guys that made this movie possible, and you're just like, and they're gone. The other thing was that the music kind of overpowered a lot of the movie. And I mean, I get that a lot of it was like, we want to sell soundtracks because we got Judd Nelson and we got all these cool songs in here. But it was like, I still want to be able to hear what's going on. And I know that they borrowed a lot of Star Wars sound effects for the cartoon, but it's like, you kind of drown out some of the goodness of the movie by making the soundtrack so loud. And but other than that, I thought the animated movie was fantastic. As far as like all the movies together combined, of all the movies, I guess the very first live action movie would be my second favorite, because it was just like you can't tell me, because we had never seen it live action before. When Optimus Prime transformed for the very first time, everybody felt like they were 3, 4, 5 years old again. It was like, that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And I was like, finally. And then they made 2 and 3 and 4.
But the first one was cool.
But the first one was really cool.
Yeah.
I was only disappointed that they didn't. I mean, why Hugo Weaving? I never did get that one. Like, why do you get all these other voice actors and you get Hugo Weaving for Megatron? And then bring Frank Welker in to do Shockwave to say 1 sentence, and then replace Hugo Weaving with Frank Welker altogether. That didn't make any sense to me at all. But like I said, I think there's something in every one of the movies to actually like. In fact, a lot of people don't like my opinion on Transformers 5, but so I went to BotCon 2011, where they actually premiered like a big, huge chunk of the film, the very first film for us. And Michael Bay was actually there, and he tried to convince everybody that he was a Transformers fan because he watched through all the old cartoons. And like, that does not make me a Transformers fan. But I started noticing when Transformers 5, if you go through Transformers 5 and start going back through some of the old cartoons, you're going to see some stuff that looks very familiar to some of the cartoons. And I'm like, I have a feeling, from the mind of a director, he just went through the cartoons like, that would look good on film, that would look good on film. It took them all out of context. But the Unicron coming up out of the water looked a lot like the Nemesis coming up out of the water every time the Decepticons came out. And I have a feeling he saw that in the cartoons. He's like, that would look really cool on film. So if you do it that way, you can like kind of see nods to the old cartoon. They're taken out of context. But in my mind, I'm like, if this was done, if somebody re-edited this, it would feel a lot like G1, and it does look really good. The problem is has always been, it's the story's just not strong enough. The visuals are really good visuals, and you have a couple of really good characters, but they're not all great characters. For me, the biggest problem with the movies was that it had way too many sidekicks. There's always that one funny character, but in the very first movie, the main character is the funny character, and yet there's 2 other funny characters. And in the second movie, there's like 3 other funny guys. Like, you only need 1 comic relief. You don't need 5. This is, I mean, I get that you're kind of making an older kids movie, or, you know, people that are young at heart. But to me, like, you need 1 funny character, and that's it. You don't need everybody else, because, I mean, it works better when you have straight guys and you go like, oh, that's the funny guy. But then you have always like, okay, which one of these is supposed to be the funny guy? Because they're all kind of trying to be the funny guy, and I don't know what's going on. So, but yeah, if you look through the stuff, there's always something cool in there to find. I thought the fight between Prime and Bumblebee in Transformers 5 was really cool too. There's a lot of cool stuff that's individually, if you take it, you know, it's like a box of chocolates. You know, an individual piece is actually really good. And then there's a couple of coconut ones in there, like that. So, like I said, as long as they keep making stuff and it gives them a reason to keep making toys, we should all be grateful that they just keep making things. Because if it doesn't do well, say goodbye to all this stuff, and we all love this stuff. So we're grateful that we've got it. So yeah,
great. Well, I believe it's a perfect.
No more questions. Making sure. Oh, I got 2. Great. Jeez, I just can't end it.
Yeah. So I know for a lot of shows they have different voice actors in different studios. Have you ever done a show where one of the voice actors you really wished you had worked with, but actually at a separate studio?
Well, I mean, I've been in a lot of games where they had some pretty big names, and I was like, oh, crap, I know that guy. But with video games, they never recorded together, ever. In fact, Paul Eiding was the original voice of Perceptor. He recorded with Bruce Willis on a video game. Bruce Willis was in Europe, and he was in the United States. And so they never actually saw it. In fact, I don't want to get off Transformers and onto other stuff, but with Honest Trailers, a lot of people are like, was Ryan Reynolds there? And I'm like, Ryan Reynolds was over in like Holland or something at the time. Like, we didn't even record together over the phone. We recorded totally separately from each other. So that's actually commonplace. In fact, I recently did a coaching session with an animation director, casting director, and a booth director. So that means she hires the actors and she also directs them when they actually record the cartoon. They hate recording the actors together. They said it's so much easier when they get what they need from each individual one and then have them come in and then they'll play the audio from the other actor. And they said it's just so much easier for production. I always assumed what everybody else assumed because you're all going, because I had the same, like, no, it seems like it'd be so much better when you have all the actors there together. But like that works for some shows where the animation's not already done and they're animating to what they say. And of course they're going to improvise. But when you get a lot of the big actors together, because there's about 30 of like the big guys and girls, and it's like when you get them together, it kind of you know when they get a movie that they have way too many celebrities and they're all just trying to be the top dog. It turns into that, you know, which is, I'm really worried that's what Ocean's 8 is going to turn into. So it's like, when you do that, it doesn't work. It really doesn't. So I can understand from a production standpoint. But yeah, I've been in video games with, like, Vincent D'Onofrio was in Dishonored 2. I never saw him. Sean Schimmel came in after I finished my session and then griped at me later on. He thought I was an engineer who was looking for a free autograph or something. I'm like, dude, I didn't even know who you were at the time. Like, I don't even watch Dragon Ball Z. I found out a year later that he was in Dragon Ball Z. I had no idea. I just assumed, like, I was like, oh, hey, we're in this game together. That's all I knew. So I don't really, until they actually released the cast list, I don't really know what's going on. So, and they didn't have anybody, the only other animated thing I worked on, well, I mean, I worked on that one anime series. So Debbie Derryberry is the voice of Jimmy Neutron. She's in the same anime that I'm in. I thought this, but we're actually friends now, so that's kind of cool. But there's so many, like, I'm not a brony, but I would love to be in My Little Pony because the cast is freaking holy crap. Like, who wouldn't want to be in a booth with like Tara Strong and like all these different everybody just like. But yeah, I mean, I'm friends with most of the cast from Voltron. Who would not want to record with Rhys Darby? That guy is freaking hilarious. I'll share this story, and hopefully there's anybody else wants a question, you can come up with it now. So when they premiered Voltron at WizardCon, Rhys Darby was the last one to come out, and you have to understand he's not done a lot of voice acting. He's always done on-camera stuff. But I'm friends with Josh, and I'm friends with like all the and Jeremy is like a big fan of Honest Trailers. He saw my shirt. He's like, "Dude, big fan, by the way." I was like, "Well, that's cool. That guy was an Avatar." So after Josh Keaton comes out, Rhys Darby comes out, and they're all talking about their experience, what they've done. And these guys are all like established voice actors. And then Rhys Darby came out and was like, "I told these guys all how to do it. I got all my voices. I told them how to do that. This is my high voice. This is my low voice." It was just so funny. I was like, I want to work with that guy one of these days. He seems so fun. But I think this is probably the best answer. I feel like I always do these like a game show, like, and number 3, number 2, and number 1. So my number 1, the ideal situation to be in for me would be to stand between John DiMaggio and Kevin Michael Richardson. Because those two guys don't get any work done. They're so stinking funny together. And so they'll go on for 5 or 10 minutes after they're done recording and just keep going. Just hanging out with Bender all day and Shredder, just like doing whatever. I don't think I would stop smiling. My face would probably crack from smiling too much. And it's so funny because John DiMaggio, I didn't even know, I thought he just didn't like me. He like unfriended me on Facebook. Never explained why. But he's like, we're totally cool with each other because we were a guest at convention together. I was hiking up Hollywood Hills, and John DiMaggio passed by, and I was like, "Hey, John, what's going on?" He's like freaking out. He's like, "You found my shortcut. I use this to get back and forth to work." I was like, "Who in the world up here knows who I am?" I was like, "So you should ride it with your windows down." I'm just up there hiking around. There's John DiMaggio driving by. My buddy's like, "Who's that?" I was like, "That was Bender." And if you ever get a chance to go to San Diego Comic-Con, he's not hard to find. Go wherever the alcohol is. And he usually just does a whole set drunk on the corner, waiting for people to buy him drinks, I guess. I don't know. What was really funny, I had a group of friends friends from BuzzFeed and a bunch of other YouTube channels. We were all kind of walking together. And all of a sudden, John DiMaggio comes out drunk and starts, "Hey, girl, what's going on? Yeah, you guys want to go get wasted?" He starts doing his Tracy Morgan, And then, so all of us were like huge fans, and one of us was like, "Should we be recording this?" I'm like, "No, don't record this. You're gonna get me in trouble." And then the one guy was like, "Why are we hanging out with some drunk homeless dude?" Like, that was freaking Bender, dude. Like, you know who that is? He's like, "Why didn't anybody tell me? I would have gotten a picture with him." He acted like he'd known us forever, and he just got married. I'm like, he's like, I said, "How's the wife?" He's like, "I don't even know where she is right now. I have no idea. I don't even know where I am. I'm totally lost. I just hang out with you guys. Let's go get drunk." Yeah, Kevin is such a nice guy. I first met him at BotCon in 2011. They surprised everybody with like the entire cast of Transformers Prime. It was huge. I'd never met Steve Blum before. This was the first time I met Peter Cullen. The only one that was not there was Frank Welker. Like I said, he didn't always do conventions. He only recently started doing that. And I was trying to get through they had them all separated into like 15 lines. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get in every single one of these lines. So I came up to Kevin Michael Richardson, and I had run into him one time before. I was at a little cafe that's kind of known. It's really close to CBS Studios, which is where they recorded Transformers Prime. And Phil Lamar and Kevin Michael Richardson were in the parking lot. I was having lunch with Kyle Hebert, who's last time on Dragon Ball Z. And he's also Hadouken, he and I have been friends for a long time, so we had lunch together. It was my first trip to LA. We had lunch together with Pat Freely, who, if you didn't know, if you're in voice of Krang. So I was having lunch with these guys. Vanessa Hudgens comes in from High School Musical and sits next to us. And then I go out in the parking lot, and there's a paparazzi in the bushes with a camera like this big, trying to get pictures of Vanessa Hudgens. And I hear this big and I look over, it's like, "That's a big strong man right there." And I was like, I instantly knew who both they were. And I think they were I think Comic-Con was the very next week. I think they were getting ready to go over to Comic-Con. And I came by and I was like asking them if I could just get a quick picture and say something about, and I was basically fan gushing like some of you people have done to me. Like, it's so weird for me, but for them I totally get it. And so I asked him to get a video. It was like one of my favorite videos I've ever done. He's like, hey, I'm Phil Lamar. He's like, and I'm Kevin Michael and John Beelan loves black people. And then apparently he started following me on Facebook, and then I saw him again. It was 2 years, it was at least a year later at BotCon, and he saw me in line. I wasn't even anywhere near the front of the line. I was way back in the back. He's like, John Beelan, you better get up here and give me a hug. So I went up there and gave him a hug, and he's like, dude, I've been following you on Facebook, man. You're doing really good for yourself. And I was like, thank you, okay. He's like, what was that? He never heard me do Optimus Prime before. that was great. I was like, Bulkhead, it's clobbering time. I always thought Bulkhead should say it's clobbering time. I'm sorry. I mean, come on, that just seems like it's a no-brainer. But and that's the kind of voice actor, that's the kind of people they are. They're really cool. They keep an eye on your stuff, they see what you're doing, and Maurice LaMarche, out of nowhere, I was a huge fan of Maurice LaMarche. I was a fan of him way back. I mean, he started a long time ago. And my agent, she knows everybody. She's like, you want to meet Maurice? Come on back. So she took me back behind the stage at Comic-Con with the lady that was trying to kick us out. She's like, no, I represent these guys. You're not going anywhere. So she's like, come in to meet Maurice. And he's like, oh, hey, you want to get a picture? Yeah, sure. And then, like, 2 weeks later, I get a Facebook message from Maurice LaMarche. He's like, John Beelan, you're the voice of Honest Trails. I'm a huge fan of him. Like, you're a fan of me? What world do you live in? Like, it felt like an episode of Black Mirror or something. You know, it's like so bizarre for me. And then I'll share this last time. Are there any other questions before I finish up? No, you got it. Okay. So just to show you what great people these are, I had asked Maurice LaMarche if he'd ever had time to record something as Chief Burns for my kid. Like I said, I have an autistic son, and all my kids are Rescue Bots fans. And I said something simple like, do your homework, stay in school, whatever you want to do. And I said, no hurry, do whatever you want. And 3 months went by, and I didn't hear anything. I was like, and I know how busy I am. I can imagine how much busier they are. Because I only have like this much time in my day for myself. And I usually spend that making YouTube and social media content. I had a big voice guy on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Facebook, all of things. And so I'm this close, guys. I'm this close to 20,000. Come on, you gotta follow this up. Come on. So I ran into him at a convention. He's like, oh, I got your thing. I said, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, he said, I got your audio files with an S. I'm like, files? He's like, yeah, I got everybody from the Rescue Bots cast to record something for you. I was like, can I hug you now, Daddy? I mean, I didn't ask him to do that. He sent me these amazing clips, and it's the whole, everybody except for Logan Arbor, they all chipped in. And now Amari Williams and I are friends, and I made so many friends out of that. And I have people that'll like send me requests like, look, it's my kid's birthday. Can you like say happy birthday, Connor, as Optimus Prime? Like, yeah, absolutely, I'd be glad to. And I don't even go that far. Like, I'll even actually fill in for all the others because I know they don't have time. It's like short notice. In fact, we recently had, it was a really small convention in Georgia. No, it wasn't in Georgia. It was like Ohio or somewhere. And the guy who ran the show, it was really sad. I don't want to end this on a sad note, but the guy, long story short, he had cancer and he passed away. But he had sold his entire G1 collection to run that show. And yeah, and I was like, you're talking about thousands of G1 toys, and he sold them all just to run that show. And only like a dozen people or so showed up. And when he passed away, we contacted all of our Transformers voice actor friends, and we had 50 voice actors from Transformers of all these different generations that recorded something that he could listen to while he was still here with us. And he just got this amazing audio clip from everybody chipped in. Amari Williams chipped in, like everybody. Maurice LaMarche, everybody just sent something in. I think it was only a couple people we didn't get back from. And I was like, that just shows what good people these guys are. I mean, it's one more reason to love Transformers, you know? So yeah, I mean, if I go, that's what I want. You know what I mean? I want a farewell from the entire cast of Transformers from the originals on. Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to go out with Peter Cullen sending a message going, to all I want, John Beelan.
Come on, get out of that.
Tea party, we're like sending our thing.
One thing we'd like to ask you, because some of our viewers will be seeing this online, could you please greet them? This is the name of our website, maniacsfigurek.pl. We will be able to...
See, you say it so fast.
Yeah.
I have very slow ears.
Like maniacs, maniac. Maniacy, figurek. figure.
Money action figure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Before you go, we'd like to present you with a gift. Something that I made especially for you. Because you're the first voice actor of Transformers that ever visited Poland and met with our fandom. And we're very humbled because of that.
Oh, thank you.
We'd like to offer you one of a kind, unique, custom-made Optimus Prime, which is painted in Polish national colors of our flag.
Cool. Thank you, man.
I hope it will fit with your collection.
Jeez, I wish they actually made this in the movies. Look how cool it is.
It matches right.
Thank you so much.
So I hope you like it and it will join your collection and proudly remind you of...
Well, yeah, I'm never taking this out of the box ever again. For me, that's freaking great. My kids are gonna get this. I know they're gonna sneak in my office. I'm gonna have to lock this away somewhere. I bought my wife the silver anniversary Care Bear. And while she was out of town with her family on a little mini vacation, my youngest daughter's like, "Hey, can we open up Mommy's Care Bear?" I'm like, "Oh, that's Mommy's." She's like, "We can open it, but eventually we will." That's probably what they're going to try to do with this. Man, now I know what Josh Keaton feels like. So when Josh Keaton joined the cast of Transformers Prime, they surprised him with a G1 Optimus Prime in the box, and Peter Cullen signed it for him right there in front of him, and he just freaking punched that. And this is the closest thing to that's ever going to happen. Big problem. Thank you so much.
With pleasure.
Come baby! And by the way, I do a lot more Transformers voices than just Optimus. You just kind of name your pick. I can do whatever you want. I can make an invention that does all kinds of different voices if you want me to. Of course, it'll probably explode, but who knows?
The problem is he's just confused, that's all.
Ironhide had a great voice too. A lot of people just underappreciate Ironhide's voice. Shockwave was always one of my favorites.
As well as Megatron. And Starscream, of course.
Yeah, I do so many different ones. I've been a fan for so stinking long, and I'm just so happy to even be even a small part of what Transformers is now. So, and fingers crossed, maybe I'll get something even bigger in the future. You never know.
We'll be waiting for you. Yeah. So once again,
okay.
John Penny! Thank you very much.